The Chicagoland area has a large number of lonely dogs currently filling shelter pens, just waiting to find a family. Nothing adds warmth to a home like a wagging tail and a warm pair of brown eyes. If you are considering adding a dog to your household, visit the Anderson Animal Shelter, where adoption counselors can assist you.
And welcome everybody here to the X-Bob Sports Live Show. I hope everybody out there is having a better Monday than I'm having, and we might all be having. It's nice outside, but it's been a long day already. I know it's early in the morning or afternoon, whatever it might be for you, but we are live here from the Illinois Media School here in the O'Hare campus. Again, I hope everybody out there is having a wonderful day. It has been a heck of a week when it comes to sports. I mean, there have been a lot of big news topics that have been dropping left and right. Obviously, we can't get to all of them, but we're going to get to the few that we absolutely can. We're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs. We're going to talk about the Bears and their whole schedule situation, and there were certainly a lot of questions that we got from people and everything, and we're going to answer those questions as well. One in particular, we may or may not get some takes from the back. We'll see how that kind of plays out. But obviously, guys, we want to thank you guys for joining us here on stream, for watching us. You guys can find us on Twitch and on YouTube. They are both at twitch.tv/xbombsports, youtube.com/xbombsports. If you guys want to follow us anymore on our social media, as always, of course, it is at xbombsports on Twitter and on Instagram. And if, again, you have any questions or comments, things like that, which a lot of you flooded us with I had like 30 emails coming from all different directions on this question that we're going to answer, and this one may get me some really harsh responses. We will see. If that is going to be the case, then maybe we won't. I'm more than willing to take the bullets and the arrows if that be the case, but we're going to see how this one plays out. So, but obviously, and I think people already know what I'm talking about. So if you guys have any questions or comments, xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys. Again, any questions, comments, things like that. So without further ado, let's kick this one off with, we've got the NBA playoffs going on, ladies and gentlemen. It is finally been decided exactly how this thing's going to play out. We're going to start with the matchups before we get to the predictions on the game. So we now know who's going to be in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, who's going to be playing in these big games. Well, to kick it off with, we've got the Dallas Mavericks, who came out of nowhere when it looked like they might have been down and out in this one. Well, they were still able to fight their way back after a huge battle with the very young Oklahoma City Thunder, with obviously, not exactly the way that you thought it would go, but I had a strong feeling that perhaps the Thunder would push the Mavericks to Game 7, and sure enough they did, and they almost came away with it. But had it not been for a guy like Luka Doncic for being able to play a fantastic game the way that he usually does, of course, just a stellar performance all the way around, had a triple-double. He absolutely dominated the game, and you see the Mavericks are able to pull it out thanks to P.J. Washington hitting some free throws, and that's ultimately what leads them to the victory. Now, credit where credit's due to Oklahoma City Thunder. They are a young team. They found a way to be able to compete with the Mavericks. They found every opportunity they could to score points and keep themselves in the fight against a Mavericks team that is very good. I think still has a good chance to at least get themselves in the finals, right? They've got their guy in Luka. They've got a solid number 2 in Kyrie, who, yeah, he was streaky in this game for sure. Like, he did not play his best game at all. But, you got to give it to a guy like Luka Doncic. He can take over a game and just make a difference. And you saw there were other guys that certainly stepped up, right? Derek Jones Jr., former Bull, he had 22 points. You saw the bench come alive there. Lively, who's a very young man, he was able to come off the bench and add 12 points. And he was stellar on the rebounds. He had 15 of them himself. Plus, he was great on the defensive side of the things at the post. This Mavericks team is good. But again, credit where credit's due to Oklahoma City. This is a young team where you had your star player hitting 36, which is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 2 of your young stars who are up and coming still trying to find their way, scored 20 points in this game, right? The entire starting crew there had double digits in points. So you got to give it to OKC. They found a way to be able to step in there, make it happen, make the fight come to them. They were not backing down, and you got to love it. You gotta experience. You got to love what exactly they're able to accomplish on that one. And I think what you saw was two men who are obviously filled with playoff experience now in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, flexing their muscles a little bit more when they had to, because that's when you need those big players to step up. So I was impressed with it. I really like the way that Oklahoma City Thunder played. I know they're going to be back in this thing. They're not going away anytime soon. They got the number 1 seed for a reason, right? They were there, but Dallas put it away to a game. Sorry, not Game 7. I don't know why I said Game 7. My mind's all over the place today. A Game 6. Dallas was still able to get this one exactly where they needed it to be. You got to, again, I don't think that the Mavericks are a bad team. I don't know if they can win a championship right now. I certainly think they can be in the finals, though. I think they're that good enough of a team. But they also, I think right now it also proves to say, too, yeah, Luka is maybe the MVP that should have gotten the trophy, right? It goes to say something about the guy, for sure. But outside of the Mavericks, outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder, boy, I mean, who would have saw this coming? Maybe one of the worst defensive teams in the playoffs is the Pacers. Well, Indiana, they came, they saw, and they found a way to conquer. Now, it should be noted, the Knicks were very injured, right? They were completely beat up, right? The Pacers have taken advantage of, I should say, an injured Milwaukee Bucks team. They didn't have their 2 stars for most of that series. Then they get the Knicks, who are hobbled all over the place, and then you have Jalen Brunson, who fractures his hand in this game. And luckily, Dante DiVincenzo was still able to put up some points, but by that point, the Pacers are running away with it, so there's no point. It's pretty obvious that Indiana has enough firepower, I think, on this team to be competitive. I don't know if they're going to be able to compete with what they've got coming up next, but it was pretty clear from the get-go that they weren't going away. They were going to find their opportunities, and the Knicks didn't find ways to adjust when they needed to. Right? Jalen Brunson would score as many points as he could, and the rest of the guys would try and find their way as well. But at the end of the day, the team game was winning for the Pacers. That's really what balanced this one out for the Pacers to give them the W. They played the ultimate team game. They didn't play great defensively. They never have. But what they have done really well is pass the ball, score great in transition, find ways to get the open shots on, transitions off of the blocks and all that kind of stuff. They have found opportunities to take those, stop and shot, pop shots, right? The 3-pointers. They know exactly where to fire from. And Rick Carlisle, for all that complaining he did at the beginning, he clearly made adjustments, right? Knowing full well that his team is not going to be the greatest at stopping the other side, he still said, all right, then we have to make the final adjustments to make sure that our team is going to be able to stay competitive within this one. It's not easy, of course. This is a good Knicks team. This is a team, New York is a team that is probably going to be back in the playoffs next year. They have enough components there. They're going to have to make some decisions, sure. But they keep this core together, they're going to be right back. But the Pacers found a way to make the adjustments, find their flow. And yeah, injuries. I understand. But injuries are a part of sports. You have to find a way to be able to deal with them when you can. Part of the problem here, I think, is that, once again, Tom Thibodeau, who is a former Chicago Bull coach, who many have blamed for Derrick Rose's injuries and other injuries to other players in the past, be it the Bulls or the Wolves or anywhere he's coached. His biggest issue has always been he wants to play guys 40-plus minutes, right? You look at time played. Those guys get wear and tear. Now, is a fractured hand Tom Thibodeau's fault? Not necessarily. That happens. That happens. But yeah, if a guy is maybe less tired, maybe his body is not as, you know, prepared for that. Maybe he's more prepared for that kind of, moment to happen. I mean, it is what it is, right? You can't really do anything about it. But you do have to wonder, like, your body goes through a lot when it comes to anything like that. You go through 40 plus minutes of running up and down a court, going through hell like that. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm not going to sit here and, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and blame that coach. I'm not going to sit here and blame Tom Thibodeau for this because at the end of the day, the Knicks have to find a way to be able to make certain adjustments to be able to win their game. But this is one where, yeah, once Jalen Brunson went out, you're losing one of your biggest factors that help you stay in this fight. He's your star. He's your scoring machine. He's the guy that, leads the team, clearly. And he's not done yet, obviously, but this was a huge loss for them to take. I mean, he was playing pretty solid for the most part through this game, and then he went out with the injury, and then it was like, okay, well, we need Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo and the rest of these guys and stuff. I mean, Alec Burks, who's like in his mid-30s at this point, scores 20 points. I mean, how many people can remember Alex Burks used to be like a good shooting guard once upon a time ago in Utah? Like, people thought he was a really special player at one point. He really never was. He was just an average Joe that could hit threes. But in this game, for this team, he ends up having 26 points, excuse me. I didn't even get the number right. But you need more than that as well because the rest of the bench, they didn't do their job. They didn't shut them down. They didn't stop them. They didn't find ways to be able to get their own points as well. When your star goes down, you have to find a way to funnel it through. And they didn't have those guys. Again, I understand you've got injuries. I get that. We all get that. But in some regard, you have to have a game plan to say, if and when this guy does go down, how do we recap? How do we revamp ourselves? How do we make sure that we are supplementing his scoring with the bench and with the surrounding players? I don't think Tom Thibodeau's ever had an answer for that. When stars on his teams have gone down with injuries, it seems like he's never had the answer to, oh, I got this one. I know exactly what we can use. I know exactly what we can do. It just never has felt like that. It's never felt like he's had that motivation. He's had that strength behind himself to be able to say, yeah, I've got this guy and this guy and this guy, and that'll add up. Like, that's analytics, but in some regard, you have to be able to do that. But good for the Pacers. They were able to beat the Knicks. Hicks versus Knicks lived up to the hype, and Hicks won. Good for the Pacers. With all the nothing they have out there, they finally have a basketball team that's winning, so good for them. So outside of the Pacers, though, we've got one more basketball game we got to talk about because, lo and behold, I didn't think it was going to happen. I seriously thought that the Nuggets would pull it off, but if you can say upset, I mean, how do you spell it? You spell it Wolves. Wolves. The mighty Timberwolves, ladies and gentlemen, find a way to beat the Denver Nuggets, defending champion Denver Nuggets that we all believed, I think, would be able to repeat in the West. But the Wolves find a way to say, not this year. This is our time. It's our time up here. I was blown away by this game. I was absolutely shocked. I did not think the Timberwolves had enough to compete with Denver. I was clearly wrong. They played a perfect game. And keep this in mind, too. Denver played sloppy. Denver had a huge lead over them at the half. I mean, they were killing Minnesota. And the Timberwolves just turned it up. Third quarter, Denver only has 14 points. 24 and 29 in the first half. They only score 14 in the third period, or third quarter. Sorry. Minnesota 28 and 32 in the second half, in the third and fourth quarters. Just outstanding stuff, great play. I mean, Anthony Edwards doesn't even score the most points, right? They get the ball to guys like Jaden Daniels and Karl Anthony Towns, and those guys just go off. Again, granted, those guys did not have maybe their best days all the way around in certain degrees, but McDaniels was hitting from three. Karl Anthony Towns was scoring inside. They played the team-oriented game, and it won. Denver relied solely on its stars in Nikola Jokic and, of course, who else? Jamal Murray. And they both have 30-plus points each. But it's the surrounding cast that has always made them very good, and you can't do it without them. Porter Jr. had 7. Aaron Gordon had 4. Their defense was awful. I mean, and you don't even really go into your bench hardly at all. I'm going to be honest, Mike Malone, the head coach of the Denver Nuggets, I think he got a little scared. I think he got frustrated, and I think he was like, I have to go with the starters. I have no choice. The only guy that came off the bench to play any sort of meaningful minutes was Chris Braun. And he's just a three-point shooting specialist. That's why they brought him on, because they needed to hit threes because they needed to get those points up. They wanted to try and stay with Minnesota. Well, Minnesota just ran away with it. They played a perfect game while Denver played a sloppy game, and that's why the transition was so big. That's why Minnesota was able to pull this off. That, from where I'm standing at right now, their defense was on point. Their passing was incredible. They set up shots for each other. They got great screens. Everybody was in position where they needed to be, and they just played outstanding. They were great. I mean, it really, not even all that great because their percentages were low. But they made the right plays at the right time. And in some regard, yeah, you could say numbers are bad, sure. But they still play a great game. They still play the perfect game. The perfect game for the Denver Nuggets. Denver didn't really stand a chance, and it showed in that second half. So, I mean, Malone can be upset all he wants because it showed in his press conference. And you can say, well, he's human. Yeah, sure. But keep a little bit of composure, man. By the time this got into Game 7, I got to say, I was a little bit nervous and I was worried that the Nuggets would not be able to pull this off. Now, does this discredit them? No, I don't really think it discredits them. I think they'll still be back at some point, maybe for a championship or two. But if this is their only title that they win and this is where the Minnesota Timberwolves take over, it's not bad. If anything, this adds more excitement to the playoffs for those of us that are enjoying watching these things. It's maybe not the most exciting because it's Minnesota. It's not a great market. But this is an exciting team with a great player in Anthony Edwards that I think a lot of us are going to be watching and buying his jersey and playing with him in video games. Like, he's the kind of guy that every kid is going to want to grow up and think, eventually saying, I want to be just like him. Timberwolves played a solid game. Regardless of what you think about their numbers, they played a solid game. They played so well, and you got to give them credit where credit is due. That's the bottom line. They're talented, and they showed it. And Denver, meanwhile, experienced, yes, talented, absolutely, but they played sloppy. They played terrible down the stretch, and it cost them. Good for Minnesota. Denver's got work to do. They got to work on the bench. They got to work on you can't just lay on the stars all the time. You have to get the rest of the team involved. I get it. Those guys were getting open. They were getting looks. But the rest of the team needs to come with you. But we got 2 games coming up, folks. The conference finals are coming up. The series is here. So let's talk about them. Let's do our predictions. So we'll start off in the East. We've got the Indiana Pacers. They're going to be taking on the mighty Boston Celtics, which, man, this is going to be a hard one to fight through, I got to tell you. Looking at the numbers, looking at everything as far as what this team is at, right now, Boston is favored by almost a full double digits at like 9.5. As far as the score goes, it's right now sitting at about 221.5. So they're expecting some high scoring in this one. I like the Pacers to score for sure, but this is the Boston Celtics, and this is a team that without Kristaps Porzingis, they're finding ways to get the job done. Al Horford's still a great defender down low into the post. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're still the scoring options that you can find. Drew Holiday's been great for them on the perimeter, and I think he and Halliburton are going to have their battles going at the very top of the key. You're going to see this Celtics team probably run through at least 8 to 9 guys throughout their bench, right? They go like 4 or 5 guys deep coming off the bench. They can replace their entire starting crew if they decide to, but they're the best team in the league right now. And they've shown their weak points, but the East has been a very weak division or conference this whole year. So I fully expect that the Pacers will come out. They'll fight hard. They'll score their points. Halliburton will have his moments. I'm sure maybe even Siakam will have some moments as well. But I fully believe that the Celtics will come out of this on top. If I'm going to give a prediction to this one, I'm going to say for game 1 at least, I'd probably say I'm going to say Celtics going to take it at home because they have just been almost unbeatable at home. I think the Celtics take it in 5. I think the Pacers get at least 1 on their own home court. I can't believe, though, the Celtics would not be able to win this matchup. If the Pacers did, it would be the ultimate upset. I can't see them beating them, though. I think Rick Carlisle is a better coach than Joe Mazzulla, sure, but I think the Celtics have the better players. They have the more experienced guys. I think it's their team. It's their game. It's their championship to lose until otherwise said so. So I'm going to go with the Celtics in 5. I'll say Celtics take game 1. Pacers probably take like game 3 or 4. They get at least 1 in there, but ultimately Boston takes this one all the way. Other matchup we've got is the Western Conference Final, the other game of the that's coming up the day after, right? Eastern Conference Finals on Tuesday. On Wednesday, oh man, this is going to be a stellar matchup. Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves, 2 big stars, Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, battling it out. It's going to be an impressive matchup. Now, on paper, Timberwolves should win this thing. They're favored right now by 4.5 for game 1. The score right now is set at 206.5. It's actually moved up to 207. So they're predicting more points to being scored. I would have to assume that the Timberwolves could potentially take this one maybe, I want to say in maybe about 6 games. Excuse me. This could be a sweep. God, something stuck in my throat now. Jesus. Sorry, everybody, if I'm dying up here. I would like to say sweep, but I just can't go with that. I would say I think I'm going to say Dallas. Dallas could probably pull this off, but it's going to have to be a game 7. If it's 5 or 6 games, it's Minnesota. But game 7, I think, is where Dallas can possibly take it. They have the bigger star, I think, in Luka. They have the guy that can do more in Luka. I think they have a better clutch shooter in Kyrie. But it's Minnesota's defense that's ultimately going to take them the length. Because, again, Dallas is kind of set up to be more of an offensive scoring team. Minnesota is set up to be a more well-rounded kind of team. I think they're more on the defensive front, but it's Dallas who I think in Game 7 they can turn on the match. But they have to get through Game 4 and 5, which I think Minnesota can ultimately lock them down and shut them down on, right? I truly believe that could be Minnesota sweeping them, possibly taking them in Game 5. Game 6 is going to be a bit of a up and down. I'd still give the edge to Minnesota. I don't want to count out Dallas just yet because they have the man right now. They have who I think should have won the MVP in Luka Doncic. He's an incredible player, and you can't deny that. The guy has an incredible stat line going into the playoffs here. But Minnesota looks like the favorable team. I'll take Minnesota in 4 or 5 games, but I'll still say if it goes Game 7, Dallas could ultimately take this one out. So I'll say Game 1. Game 1 I'm going to give to Minnesota. But ultimately, I'm going to say overall, I think it's Minnesota. I'll say in 5. If Game 7 comes up, it's Dallas in 7. That's where I'll sit at. And that's going to do it for the NBA playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, let us know what you guys think about the playoffs thus far. Are you intrigued with these matchups? Who do you think is going to win out of the conference finals? Who do you think is going to be the finals setup? Let us know in the comment section down below on Twitch and on YouTube. Also, again, xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys on that as well. When we get back here, folks, the Bears have a new schedule for the season. We got to talk about it. We got to make our predictions. I'm no longer a Bears fan, but I'm going to let you know exactly where the big wins can come from, where the losses may happen, and I'll give you the final verdict, and that's coming up next here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show.
You in selecting your new best friend. Make your house a home. Adopt a shelter dog. To see a current list of adoptees, visit their website at www.andersonanimalshelter.org or meet them in person at 1000 South LaFox Street in South Elgin. Don't have room in the home for a new furry family member? Donations of toys, collars, and soft or hard non-perishable dog food are always accepted and are greatly appreciated. All animals are spayed or neutered and are waiting with tails wagging to find a loving home. Visit 1000 South LaFox Street in South Elgin or www.andersonanimalshelter.org for more details.
Hey, watch your mouth.
Why? I'll just put a quarter in the swear jar. Once it's filled, we get a Coors party after work.
I've been drinking Coors since my college days. The cold draft taste is second to none.
Yeah, worth the recorder, am I right?
You know it, mother.
Hey, you get those reports done?
Yeah. No. You, sir.
Attention, employees.
The staff meeting, scheduled for this evening, will now be held tomorrow early as
That is all. Dudes, we're only 75 cents short. Oh, shh. Boss.
Hey, sir. Go yourself.
You're fired!
And welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin. We just got done talking about the NBA playoffs, that whole situation. Again, we want to know from you guys. Comment down below. Let us know what you think about that. We have, obviously, other pressing news to get on to, but first and foremost, before we get to that, we have the Bears, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, our good old boys of the Chicago Bears here in the city. They have a new schedule. We have to talk about, obviously, because of course we do, right? We got to figure out how the season's going to go for them. Everybody's predicting everything from they're going to have a losing season all the way to they're going all the way to the Super Bowl. You're hearing all kinds of talk like that flowing throughout the city on what this team could potentially do for the year. So I figured, even though I'm no longer a fan and I'm not really maybe truly an expert, I thought, let's go through the schedule. Let's look at what this team potentially has to do for themselves, and maybe I'll give my opinions and see exactly where this team is at. So without further ado, we're looking at the Chicago Bears 2024 schedule, folks. This is where we're going to look and we're going to examine just exactly what this team has going on. Look at the wins, look at potential losses. They got some hard ones that are going to be coming up here, folks. So let's just jump right into it. So let's talk about first where the easy, quote-unquote, easy wins are coming from, shall we? These are the games that they should be able to win. I say should. I would not predict that that these are necessarily going to be easy ones because let's be very honest. This is a brand new Bears team with a new offensive coordinator, right? This is also some teams that are going in with some new fixtures. Everybody's a whole new different beast, so keep that in mind. So, I mean, first and foremost, we got Week 1 versus Tennessee. I think that it could be an easy win for the Bears. They outmatch them as receivers. They outmatch them, I think, as far as offensive line goes. Well, maybe they're a little bit even on that, but I would say I think the Bears press a little bit better on the offensive line maybe than what Tennessee does to this point in time because I don't really know what J.C. Latham is as far as a starter. We were there on draft night when he got drafted, which was obviously a bit of a shock, but he went a lot higher than we anticipated. So we're going to see if he's absolutely that premier right tackle or left tackle, whatever he's going to be playing at. Ultimately, though, their defense is not very great. I give the Bears the edge on the Tennessee Titans game just because quarterback with the right offense and I think the right receivers right now, I think that's going to be a very good game. Plus, DeAndre Swift, better running back than I would probably say Tony Pollard and Spears at this point. So, but still, you never know. I'd say that's the first easy win I give them. The other easy win, I'd have to say, is Carolina. Panthers completely revamped themselves. They got a wide receiver. They got two, actually, and Deontay Johnson on a trade. But they're young, inexperienced, new head coach. Owner's a little bit crazy. I don't really trust this team. I don't think you should. They're probably going to be bad again this year. I would give Carolina a big loss on this one. This is another easy win for the Bears. In between there's some wins that could get easy. Indianapolis, Los Angeles, maybe. I just can't see it, though. I think those teams are still well-coached, well-designed, and have enough playmakers on their side of the ball that they could do enough to damage the Bears. Not offensively, maybe, but still defensively for Indianapolis and offensively for the Los Angeles Rams. Then their next big win, I would say, is their 3 games coming off the bye week, right? They're in Washington, then it's at Arizona, and then they're at home against New England. And those are the last 3 games I think are the easiest ones, right? Washington's on a rebuild. They're a brand new team. You've got Arizona, who I think is still a little bit dysfunctional, but don't discredit them yet because when Kyler Murray came back, he played well. So that could be an iffy game, but I would still give them an easy win. Again, this is easy with quotations on it. And then New England, right? They were the number 3 pick for a reason. They're still one of the worst teams, so this should be an easy win for the Bears. Their defense is not that great, but then again, you never know. Gerard Mayo may build this defense from the blue, just like Belichick has always done. Those right there, though, would count, I would say, as the easy wins. The one that I would say that's not out here, that I would possibly put out here, or 2 of them, I should say, it is the Monday night game against Minnesota. Even though Kirk Cousins isn't there, you never know. Monday night might be the chance for the Bears to be able to shine, right? They're also going to be playing against Seattle as well on Week 17 in December, just after Christmas. That might be an opportunity for them to be able to step up and make some big plays there. You never know. I don't necessarily know if they are experienced enough, be it the Bears. I don't know if they're experienced enough to be able to compete with those teams tick for tat, right? Those coaches, now granted, those are new coaches as well for Seattle, and Minnesota has a brand new quarterback that who knows if he's even going to be playing by that point. So we'll see. We'll find out. But as it stands right now, I got to say there's 5 teams on their list right now that I say are easy wins. And again, those are in quotations. Easy is in quotations because for all we know, those could also be big losses for the Bears too. But let's talk about the big tough fights they've got. They've got a lot of them when you really look at it as far as their schedule, I think. Again, I know they've got what they call the 3rd easiest schedule. That's by the metrics. But ultimately, I'm looking at the schedule. I'm looking at what they have to go against. Week 2 against Houston. And by the way, that's in Houston. I don't know how well that bodes for them. Now, they're young, but they were vicious at getting to the quarterback last year. C.J. Stroud, very good QB, very good at throwing the ball. and they have Stephon Diggs. Now, if that team is completely together and cohesive after week 1, it could be a tough fight for the Bears in week 2, right? The next one could be a surpriser. We'll have to see. It's Jacksonville in London. The Bears are playing in London, 8:30 in the morning on Sunday, October 13th. I don't know how they're going to do on that game. I am not sure. It's so early in the morning. How soon do you get there? Are you going to be prepped enough? What's the weather going to be like? Is everybody going to be on the right page by that point? You would hope so. By week 6, you would hope you would know exactly how your team's supposed to look and how they're going to play. But again, Jacksonville has always been pretty well prepared for the London trip. This is why they've taken this game. This is why they love to do it. Khan, the owner, is absolutely a guy who is in love with this idea of traveling there, and he's always prepared for it. I don't know if the Bears will be or not. I'm excited to see him play in London. I just don't know if they're going to be as prepared for the early morning game as they should be. You got to be ready for that one. It's a whole different world out there, folks. Trust me, you're driving on the wrong side of the street. Wrong things are being served at breakfast, right? You got to be worried about it. You got to be careful with it. UK is a whole new world for the football fans out there for sure, and especially for the Bears. And then the other tough ones, it's just a stretch from week 11 all the way to the very end of the season, right? So that whole week is back-to-back home games against Green Bay and Minnesota for 11 and 12. Week 13, they're in Detroit, and then they go on the road to San Francisco, then on the road to Minnesota for the Monday night game. Then you've got at home against Detroit. Then it's at home against Seattle, and then they're in Lambeau to end the season. That entire stretch would scare me if I were looking at them right now. I know what the metrics are going to say. I understand that many of those teams were not good, but they improved through the draft and free agency. They have found guys, I think, that are going to be diamonds in the rough, I'm sure, that haven't exploded yet, but they will. You have to keep that in mind. That Minnesota Monday night game is, I think, a bit of an iffy one. The Seattle game, I think, is a bit of an iffy one as well because their defense is really good and it's a brand new coach. I don't know what we'll get out of Green Bay. I don't know what you'll see come out of Detroit. You want to say they're good, and San Francisco is favored in every single game they're going into. That entire stretch, I would say, would make me nervous if I'm a Bears fan. I know people want to favor that. Sure, you can favor it all you want, but be very cautious about it, folks. Be cautious about this, because if you go into these games thinking, oh, these are going to be easy wins, these are going to be easy tack-ons, good luck, because it's not that simple. It can be very difficult in that kind of a situation. So overall, what am I looking at for the Bears? What's the record, right? From where I'm standing at right now, you would say, okay, Andrew, so you're saying what? They're going to go 5-12? No. My final verdict for this team is they're either 7-10 or they're 10-7. So they're one or the other. You're flip-flopping the numbers pretty much. They have such a good start, right? The first 6 games of the year, they could easily go 5-1, 4-2. They may even go 6-0. And then after the bye week, they might even be able to tack on 3 more wins. It's just once you hit that week 11 point, that's when I think you're going to start to hit the road. And you're going to start to feel the pressure because it's the division, and we know how much the division wants to win. It's San Francisco and it's Seattle, and they have tough defenses, and you have a rookie quarterback. As good as Caleb, I think, is as a quarterback, he is still going up against great defenses. One of them is a brand new head coach, but a great defensive mind. The other one is San Francisco, who is just great, period. I think at their worst, they're back to 7-10, but they improve as a team offensively. At their best, they're 10-7. Maybe they could push it to 11-6, depending on how many games could go their way. But ultimately, people have to be hurt, things have to go wrong for the other teams, and things have to go right for them. This team has the potential to go one way or the other. So it's either don't make the playoffs, but I think improve as a team, or improve and make the playoffs. I don't know if they win a playoff game, but you at least make the playoffs, which means, hey, you're making progress, you're making the steps, right? You're taking the steps to become that next level team, which means that you're skipping over the process a little bit more to say, hey, we're going to be ready in no time. It's something to be happy about. If you're a Bears fan, be happy. Celebrate it. Be good. 7-10, that's not bad. You're right back to where you were. That's not the end of the world. As long as there's progress from your young quarterback, from your receiving core, you look like a team in 2024. What do you got to complain about? They go 10-7, you should count your blessings. Should count your blessings. They have every opportunity to do some great things. It's now going to go down to, is the coaching going to be right? Is the teaching going to be there? Are the young guys going to be able to step up when they need to? Because there's going to be a lot of younger guys that are going to be counted on. There's going to be guys that are second year that are going to be counted on. Those guys need to step up in a big way. And that's how you're going to see the Bears go from here and get to there. There's a lot to be happy about. But I would say either keep your expectations at same record as last year, or at least venture into the idea that maybe they could go 9-8, 10-7. But the schedule, again, it might be ranked as the third easiest schedule, but don't get caught off guard. Don't think that Green Bay and Minnesota and San Francisco and Seattle, like they're just going to lay over. And don't think that the Rams and the Colts and even the Jaguars are just going to be like, yeah, we're done. And don't think that any of the teams I called easy wins are just going to lay over either. Every one of these teams are going to try and compete. They're going to try and throw the Bears off because they know they're the exciting, hot thing right now. We're going to find out. Season's coming up real soon. Real soon. I'm excited for it. I'm not a Bears fan. I'm not going back. But I'm excited to see some at least good football being played in the city of Chicago like I think it'll be played. But again, we'll wait and see kind of moment. My full-on prediction will be, I think they'll be a 9-8 team. I think they'll miss the playoffs because there'll be enough good teams in the NFC to be able to knock them out of that contention. Everybody will get a little bit better. But ultimately, I think they're going to have the best quarterback of the group. I think they're going to have one of the best receivers of the group. I think you're going to see a lot of progression out of this offense. And that's the most important thing. Forget the defense. It's all about the offense right now. We'll see what happens with the Bears going on for the future. But obviously, ladies and gentlemen, let us know, what do you think about the Bears' schedule? Where do you see them at? How do you see them winning? How do you see them losing? Where do you see the potential mismatches, the surprise games? Let us know, ladies and gentlemen, in the comment section down below. When we come back, maybe one of the biggest debates going on right now in sports, we're going to take it out of sports, and we're going to probably put it into the real world. It is going to be very contentious. Again, we're going to see who all wants to comment on this, but we're talking about that next here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show.
The Chicagoland area has a large number of lonely dogs currently filling shelter pens, just waiting to find a family. Nothing adds warmth to a home like a wagging tail and a warm pair of brown eyes. If you are considering adding a dog to your household, visit the Anderson Animal Shelter, where adoption counselors can assist you in selecting your new best friend. Make your house a home. Adopt a shelter dog. To see a current list of adoptees, visit their website at www.andersonanimalshelter.org or meet them in person at 1000 South LaFox Street in South Elgin. Don't have room in the home for a new furry family member? Donations of toys, collars, and soft or hard non-perishable dog food are always accepted and are greatly appreciated. All animals are spayed or neutered and are waiting with tails wagging to find a loving home. Visit 1000 South LaFox Street in South Elgin or www.andersonanimalshelter.org for more details.
Hey, watch your mouth. Why? I'll just put a quarter in the swear jar. Once it's filled, we get a Coors party after work. I've been drinking Coors since my college days. The cold draft taste, the second stuff.
Yeah, worth the recorder, am I right?
You know it, mother.
Hey, get those reports done?
Yeah. No. you, sir. Attention, employees.
The staff meeting, scheduled for this evening, will now be held tomorrow early as
That is all. Dudes, we're only 75 cents short. Oh, shh. The boss. Hey, sir, go yourself. You're fired!
And welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Mom Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin, and I hope everybody's been enjoying the show so far. We just got done talking about the NBA playoffs to start it off, folks. We also just got done analyzing the Bears' schedule, and now, this is where things get interesting. So, obviously, we've gotten a lot of questions. One just came blaring at me this week. In great force for us to talk about. Now, I want to preference this, and I know a lot of people probably know already what I'm going to talk about here. If this does make you upset, I'm sorry, but it is something that I think needs to be discussed. The opinions are my own opinions, as are anybody else's opinions are their own. They do not have any reflection on the show or anything like that. And also, I would ask that everybody respect everybody's right and opinion on this as well, as we have of what I will also say, as it should be as well, the opinions of those that are being stated from this story itself. Okay? I want that preferenced. Nobody's going to be happy either way talking about this because this is very controversial. So I'm leaving it up to the back to see if they want to chime in or not. Because like I said, I have talked about stuff like this before. I'm more than happy to take the slings and arrows on it. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about the Harrison Butker situation. So who is Harrison Butker? For those who don't know, Harrison Butker is the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He's been a part of every single Super Bowl they have won since Andy Reid's been there with Patrick Mahomes and all those guys. And he is argued to be one of the best kickers right now in the NFL, right? In football, nobody does it better than he does by many people's accounts, and his stats certainly show for it. Well, Harrison Butker is also a very devout Catholic. He very much falls into that realm of being a guy who is, you know, his religion carries a lot within what he believes in and how he lives his life and all that stuff. And I fully respect that. I understand that. And obviously with that come certain ideals that maybe do not click with others, of course. But Harrison Butker was asked, I guess, to give a commencement speech, which oftentimes many of these guys do for colleges and stuff when they're graduating, right? They ask a famous person or something like that, or an alumnus, somebody, to give the commencement speech. Well, he was at Benedictine College, which is in Kansas. It is a Catholic, a very Catholic college, if you will. And he had some statements that he made, which obviously were very controversial by many people's account. And we had a bunch of questions that came flying in. I'm not going to list everybody, but obviously everybody was asking, well, what are your thoughts on his comments? Well, allow me to read first his comments, and then we'll get into this. So I'm not going to read every comment he made. I'm going to maybe paraphrase a little bit of what he had to say without putting my own riff on it itself. I want to make sure that it stays on a neutral side before we get into discussion. But this was the big comment that he made. I'm going to read it as quick as I can. Harrison Butker said this. This was the big one that was getting tossed around. He said, okay, I found it. All right. So he said, I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolic lies told to you. Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children that you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and a mother. I'm on this stage and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I am beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. So that was Harrison Butker's kind of big part of his speech that everybody heard. And I remember we heard it actually over social media, and obviously you hear that, and you're kind of like, okay, wow, that was said. Now, he had a lot of other things to say. He apparently had something to say, from what I understand, about the something having to do with the gender ideologies and things like that. Apparently, people thought, I think we're looking at it saying he was attacking Pride Month. There was also statements being made about COVID restrictions back in 2020, 2021 that pertained to, I guess, what was going on with the Biden administration. And then he made another statement as well that was like, men should be men, they shouldn't be effeminate. Again, I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, but it was very much, men should be doing the tough stuff and be manly and stuff like that. And obviously that's very much in that alpha male kind of mindset that's being put out there. And so there's a lot to this kind of everything that he was saying. I don't have the full thing. We could sit here and talk about the whole entire conversation for an hour, I'm sure. But look, Harrison Butker, I've said this before. You can think what you want. You can say what you want. You do have freedom of speech. The First Amendment is there to guarantee you that you don't get persecuted and you don't get arrested for what you have to say. It doesn't, however, stop you from having the consequences of what you say come against you, which obviously that has yet to happen for Harrison Butker. But there is a lot of people that are certainly up in arms with what he had to say because my opinion, fully on my point of what I'm looking at, I understand that he is Catholic, and I know, and I was raised Catholic myself. I was Roman Catholic raised. I understand that there is a section, whatever you want to call it, of Catholicism that is very much on that side of like men are men and women are women and they're supposed to do. I have never been a part of that. I've never believed that. I've actually been somebody who really does not like that kind of style, more than anything because I grew up in a parenthood where both my parents worked, and it was by equality we both create a great home, and that's what my parents did. So for me, and by the way, we're not heavy into our faith or anything. I don't go to church every Sunday. I stopped going to church when I was 13. So take it for what you will. Harrison Butker can do and think whatever he wants. Again, I have to stress that. He can do and think whatever he wants. When he says it, though, I think he has to remember that he is a public figure. And what your words have weight to them. And I don't know if this is a college where everybody believes in a certain way about Catholicism or whatever, but I would have to imagine that there are going to be some women who probably are kind of like, I don't want to be a homemaker necessarily. I want to have a job, or I want to have a career. I want to do certain things with my life. And I would think you'd want to be a little bit respectful of that, just not assume that. And nowhere do I think he was really assuming that every woman wants to, but it certainly kind of seems to be conveyed that he's assuming that, it's kind of his way of coming off as saying like, hey, look, I know you all went to college and want to have these careers and got these degrees and everything, but have you ever thought about being a at-home mom? And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with him kind of talking to them instead of just kind of being like, look, do what you want, do what you love, right? You know, if you would have said, be it have a career and build your business and be a person working in the world and make your life that way, or be it you want to, you know, raise a family and all that stuff, however you want to do it, right? I don't think that would have been a problem, but obviously he didn't structure it that way. He very much seemed like it felt less, his speech felt less like a commencement speech and felt more like bullet points on an agenda list that he wanted to hit for like a campaign trail almost. Am I crazy to say that? I don't know. To me, this came off as I'm looking at it from obviously a male perspective. I don't know. I've seen some women who are kind of like, I don't think he's attacking motherhood or anything like that. I don't think he is either. I think he's trying to push his values potentially on young women, or it feels like he might be trying to push his values on young women that, you know, you don't know how they're thinking. You don't know what they want. I mean, apparently the whole student section gave him like a standing applause, which might have just been like, yeah, okay, like let's do this for him. Who knows what they were thinking, right? You know, it's tough for me to say because again, I'm sitting here as a man, you know, I have only my perspective to give on it. So I don't know. I mean, anything from the back at all? Nothing? Okay. By the way, this is Antonia for everybody who doesn't know. If you want, yeah, so everybody can hear you. This is Antonia. Antonia, obviously, it's a little bit of a contentious thing. You don't have to chime in if you really don't want to. I don't want to put you in any position that makes you uncomfortable. So please, you know, if you don't want to, it's okay. I just simply wanted to ask if you have any thoughts on this situation.
I don't know if people can hear me. I'm not really sure. I agree with you. I think women should be able to do what they want to do, and that it shouldn't be a label, like you said, like homemaker. Like, I think we're more than that. I guess there just shouldn't be a label on what we can and can't do, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So I agree with you.
All right. Well, I thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's important. This is an important thing too, right? Because I mean, look, we've had this country has done so much wrong when it comes to women's rights, right? I mean, we go back 200 years. Women were considered property, which is just downright egregious and disgusting that we ever even looked at that in that sort of way. That is so wrong that she didn't even have say in her own marriage. She couldn't pick the people that she wanted to be with. Like, that's deplorable that is the case. I mean, my mother has told the story, you know, I don't want to speak ill on my grandmother who is since gone, but my mother has said that, you know, my grandmother had always believed that she was supposed to just stay home and have babies, and because that's how my grandmother was raised, and that was from, you know, her time period. That was what she was supposed to do, she thought. And my mom was like, no, she went to UIC Circle. She learned how to be a graphic artist. She got a great job to be a graphic artist, where if she had not done that, she wouldn't have met my father. I would not have been born, and I would not have had the values instilled on me that they instilled on from them. And because I'm in that boat where, you know, I will say I had this discussion with somebody this week about, well, what kind of woman would you want to marry, Andrew? I mean, would you want a woman that would want to stay home and take care of the kids? And I said, well, yeah, that would be nice if she decides that's what she wants to do. But I've always loved the idea of being with somebody who has the values instilled in them to want to work, because I think it's nothing against motherhood or anything. Like, yes, I want a family, I want kids, all that stuff for sure. Whenever that happens, it happens. I'm not saying like this is the date. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I would love is finding somebody who has the value of wanting to work and has that work ethic, because I think that I find that interesting. I find that wonderful, and I think that's great for a relationship and great for growth, you know. And at the end of the day, you find who you find and you love who you love. You can't help that, you know. But I would never discourage my future wife, wherever she is, or girlfriend or whoever, and say, babe, I don't want you working. No, if you want to work, work. If you want a career, want a career. If you want to build a business, build a business. I'll help you build the business. I'll help you with your career. What do you need from me? Well, I want to get you there too. I think that's important. I think that's important for the growth. I think that, I mean, how many marriages do we see where like it's one-sided so many times and then it ends up kind of breaking apart? You know? I've seen it plenty of times. I'm seeing it right now with friends of mine, where the consensus is, one person's working and the other one's not, and it becomes kind of a tear between them, and that ultimately leads to the end of their relationship, and that's, it's unfortunate, but, I think what Harrison Butker, I think there is a message somewhere in there that he was trying to say that was good. I do believe that, but what he said, though, clearly came off as wrong. Whatever value he was trying to put down there, he did not put it out there at all. Instead, I think he just gave his ideas. He tried to push them on young women that are, I think he looks at it and says, they're still young enough, they're coming out of college, they're influential, so I can kind of instill something on them that maybe they'll think about, and maybe I can help push some sort of agenda or movement. I don't know. Maybe that's not what he's trying to do. Maybe he's not. Maybe this is just what he thinks and he put it on paper. But look, if he gets fired, if he loses his job as the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, and he's going to, listen, he makes a lot of money, right? Which, by the way, that's also the easy thing to say is like, telling these young women, hey, you need to go find a man that can support you while you stay at home and take care of your kids. Okay, you're a kicker that makes $1 million for kicking a football. How many of these women are going to go find a guy that's going to make, 6 figures, 7 figures, right? You're kind of the 1 in a million kind of person that had that relationship. I don't know. My personal opinion is I don't like anything of what he said. I don't agree with it. Everything about what he had to say I felt like was just very just at them and not to them in a way that would kind of be like giving them sort of confidence. It feels like you were more of trying to instruct them on something. The whole thing about everything he added in his whole speech just feels like you're trying to say something. You have an agenda you're trying to fill. It felt like a campaign speech. Again, I'm just one person. I've given my side of it. Antonia's given her side of it. Antonia, you have anything more you want to add to it at all? Or okay. I just want to check, just make sure. And I want everybody to understand, our opinions are our own. I don't want anybody, if you want to attack anybody, please do not attack her. Come after me. I don't care. You've done it enough already. It doesn't matter. I know this is a contentious topic. I understand that there's a lot of people that are going to feel certain ways about this. I know there's a lot of talk about freedom of speech and right to religion and all that. I get that. But I think when you are a public figure, when you have an influence on people like this, you have a responsibility to make sure that your remarks, your way of thinking and what you have to say, you have to think about how it's going to look and how it's going to impact certain people. You had to have known people are going to have their phones out. They're going to be recording. And when you say things like that, yeah, they're going to take notice. It's going to get plastered everywhere. I fully understand. I fully understand that there are going to be people that are just going to, you're not going to get it, right? You're going to think about this on a one-sided thing. I'd ask everybody, please look at both sides of the coin on this. Please do. I have. But ultimately, I came to the opinion and the conclusion that what I think Harrison Butker did here was wrong. I think his speech was just wrong. Other words could have been used in a different way to convey a better message that could have been loosely interpreted in other ways that he wanted to convey. Instead, he said the quiet stuff out loud. And now, yeah, some people are going to be mad. The irony, I guess, in all of this, though, is that he has the highest selling jersey right now in the NFL. He doesn't look like he's going to get cut. He doesn't look like he's going to get suspended. I would say, though, there should be a fear of him possibly losing his job. Because if I or Antonia or anybody else here, if we said anything like this in public at our jobs, I think it's fair to say we'd probably lose our job in a heartbeat. I mean, I don't know how many videos you've watched, but have you seen those videos where people basically go crazy in public? Like what do they call them? Karens, right? Things like that. You see those all, like I remember I saw one where a guy was like at a Jamba Juice. He threw the juice at one of the workers, called them all kinds of racial slurs as he's trying to get in the back to like fight them. And then a news article pops up at the end of the video saying he was a broker for Merrill Lynch. This is a guy that makes six figures. He works at Merrill Lynch. He makes all kinds of money. He works in finances. He goes crazy. He loses all of that. I know that's not what this is, but his rhetoric, his use of language on this could certainly be, I would say by any of our standards right now in the regular working place, it would be deemed as a fireable offense. Which I know people that are going to be like, well, why did I get fired? You got fired because you did something stupid and you put it on the internet. You put it out there. So again, we say it on the show all the time. Think before you do, and before you text, and before you call or say. Use your brain. Because you never know who's filming. You never know who's going to take a picture. And then you don't know where that's going to end up next. And you don't know if your employer is going to see that. Food for thought. It's all I'm saying. And that's going to do it for that topic there. Obviously, I want to know what you guys think. I'm ready for it. Please let me know what you guys thought about the Harrison Butker situation from all angles. I want to know. You agree with what he said? Do you not agree with what he said? Let's talk. Let's discuss. Also, comment down below in this YouTube and the Twitch section. We want to hear from you guys on that as well. And that's going to do it for our show here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for watching. We do appreciate it, guys. Please follow us on all the social media stuff at XBomb Sports on Instagram and Twitter. Find us always streaming here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/XBombSports, and as well as youtube.com/XBombSports. You guys can always find us streaming there every Monday. 10 o'clock-ish is kind of when we're trying to start for the streams as well. And if you guys have any questions or comments still, again, xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. Whatever it is you guys want to talk about, let us know. It can be about sports, not about sports, regular life. Doesn't matter. We want to hear from you guys on that as well. Also, too, want to say thank you, Antonia. Appreciate you chiming in and helping out as always. Thank you for, even though today was a little bit hectic for me, I appreciate it. You also can check her out as well, too, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see her show. She is at Tony Smalls X Big J. They are on a streaming show where they are streaming horror games. And they're doing their thing, playing through some horror games right now. They've got Madison, which we are probably like 90% done with, I think, at this point. We are coming down to the end of it. So I don't know if they have their next games in plan, but if you guys have any suggestions, I got a few of them from you guys. We will see if we can play them or not. Some of them may have to cost some money, which I'm more willing to invest in and help these guys out with. But some of you guys have suggested some free stuff. But if you guys have any suggestions as well, hit us up with the email as well, too, xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. I'll let these guys know what those suggestions are, and we'll kind of figure it out. But we appreciate you guys also going over there, watching them, giving support. It means a lot to us that you guys can do that as well, because they're a big part of this group, and we appreciate everything that you guys do for us as they do, as you guys do for them. So thank you. Also on top of that too, as well, Bad Karma Wrestling every Friday. The boys went at 11. I was not able to stick around because I was falling asleep in my chair because I just worked over 20 plus hours. So there's no way I was going to be able to stay awake. So but the show was great. I highly recommend you go check it out. The boys were talking about some WrestleMania stuff. They were recapping some big moments that were happening in wrestling. You can catch them again. I believe it's this Friday they're going. We will confirm that when we can for you guys on the Blow the Whistle side, which, by the way, Blow the Whistle, we're going to be going today, I believe, Monday, 2 o'clock. Be on the lookout for that. Monday and Wednesdays, we go 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time. twitch.tv/SportsTownShy. It's myself, Tyler, David, and our man Nick, all talking sports, all talking the biggest news for the day. We will be back on the radio side doing things. We got a lot to talk about with the playoffs. I'm sure the Bears schedule. We may even talk about this Butker thing ourselves again, plus the Scotty Scheffler stuff. There's a lot of news that is going on, folks, and we'll get to all of that as much as we can. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you guys next week. And as always, much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.
The Chicagoland area has a large number of lonely dogs currently filling shelter